Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Geekism Studios here in Planet Coaster. This is our sort of Hollywood Studios, Universal Studios style park that uses the Studios DLC that came out the other day and all the other bits and bobs as well, to be honest with you. So the theme of this park then, if you've not been following, is it's going to be sort of like a movies park. But all of the main rides that we're building in the game, rather than being based around a movie IP, they're going to be based around a game IP from a game that we have played here on the channel in the past. So the first thing we're doing here is doing a little bit more work to Subnautica the ride, mostly finishing off the queue and then doing a little bit of work in the station and the very first part of the ride as well. I'll be honest with you, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll have seen me mention this. I didn't quite remember how long dark rides take. I've really enjoyed building it, but they're so laborious, and also because a lot of the stuff we're going to be doing in this one is going to be very billboard heavy, very screen heavy. There's a lot of work having to go on outside of the game as well. Obviously, you're not seeing the footage of here. So, for instance, you're seeing all these images here for the queue line. Using some of the data entries from the game, and then obviously the ride itself uses lots of billboards and stuff as well. So a lot of the work I've done this week has been off camera, getting those sorted. And then once those are all in place, it's really just I was going to leave these walls relatively plain, to be honest with you, but they look unfinished, to be honest. So instead, I go around with some of the sci-fi pieces and just kind of fill in the gaps really, and just do a bit of detailing here and there, and it actually turns out a lot nicer. The other thing we do is pop a roof onto this as well, and I had an idea of doing this roof that based on I've mentioned it already, the extraterrestrial ride. I've had it in my head all week after mentioning it on the video. Extraterrestrial, I think it was called, Alien Encounter, over at Disney. And they had this area where there was like a metal grid roof that people walked around on top of, or it didn't actually where the people did, but they made it look like people were walking around flashing flashlights down. And I got that in my head and just thought that'd be a good way of doing a ceiling here. So we have a metal ceiling with some pipes and stuff over the top of it and lights shining through it. And to be honest with you, when you actually walk the queue, sort of, when you go into Tejik Cam or just sort of swap the camera down, you can't see that much of it, but I know it's there and I'm kind of happy with how it turns out. So here you go, you'll see there. Apologies if there is, I think I might have just seen one then. There's every now and again a little cutaway and it looks like a advert or something. I don't know how it happens, but it's something to do with me watching YouTube while I'm playing the game. So if I'm watching YouTube and playing the game, every now and again it will just glance over, the recording software will glance over to the second screen and come back again. It seems to happen when there's an advert on usually, which is why you get some random adverts every now and again. So here we go then, adding some pretty standard spotlights in, but I like the idea of these shining through the pipes here, and it's amazing how different it feels when you go through this queue in the dark with some of these lights, and it's so much more atmospheric, so much more sort of like getting you ready for the ride. So definitely when I come to do the POV of this eventually in the next few weeks, I'm definitely going to be doing it full on night as we walk through the queue. It makes a huge difference, it really does. So here, just a few little bits of detailing then around these sort of alien containment things we've got going on. And again, a little bit of lighting in those, a little bit brighter lighting here to sort of make them seeable? I think I might have made up a word there. And then continuing lighting, we actually move outside and just kind of light up the last of this queue. And don't really do much else there. Oh, we do some nice little uplighting on the palms here. I think this is quite nice, quite simple to do, but looks pretty classy. I like that. I think that turned out quite well. Right, back to daytime then, and we're going to carry on with the interior and really pretty much finish the station actually. So the idea here is that you've got a station. There's an area going in, obviously an area going out. The exit will then lead into a gift shop, and it's all a bit of a work in progress this, so there's a chance a lot of this will change. But here, this area I'm working on here is kind of like a little set piece as you leave the ride, just something to have a little look at as you walk out, and it's just kind of caps off the wall there that cuts off the main queue to the exit. So it's relatively simple. but I think it does a pretty good job of sort of capping off that area. And then we start working on the station itself. A couple of things I really wanted to do with the station. One, I really wanted the conveyor belt added in. So if you've actually been on one of these rides in real life, now I don't want to say that Forbidden Journey, the Harry Potter ride in Orlando, is the only one of these, but I definitely think it's one of only a few, if there is more. It may well be the only one, I'm not too sure. But if you've been on these, it actually works on an Omnimover. It constantly keeps moving, and to get on the rides, you get onto a conveyor belt. So I wanted to add that conveyor belt in, so we're going to do that. And also the other thing I wanted to do a themed ride assistant people. Okay, so obviously we can't actually theme the real one that it puts down, but we can use some of the cool new animatronics. In fact, that's actually one of the old animatronics there. So we've got a guy on the computer, and then another lady there, sort of she does a little bit of a salute as you head off. I think this actually turned out quite nicely, and something I'm probably going to do a little bit more of here as well. It's not something we do so much in Pinewood, because they're usually, the staff are just sort of like, you know, if it's anything like Alden Towers, you know, some young teenager from Stoke who's on their summer holidays from uni. But here, you know, they're a bit more themed, they've got a bit more going on about themselves. Now here, unfortunately, you're going to see a little bit of footage of me trying to figure out how the hell this robo arm works. To be honest with you, I had to mess around with the Huntsman when it came out, and they're pretty hard work to program. I'll be honest with you, they are pretty hard work to get them to do what you want them to do. So there's going to be a lot of trial error here, figuring out how they're doing. To be fair, most of it will happen off camera, but occasionally you'll get a little clip of it like that where it's just me trying to figure it out. I really wanted to trigger this light. This sort of flashing light here. It's a great light, and one of the new ones. I really wanted to trigger it when the car, I guess you'd call it, comes out of the station. Unfortunately, you can't trigger them for some reason. Bit of a random thing now, because they're getting pretty good at allowing us to sort of trigger and recolor stuff. But yeah, for some reason you can't trigger that. But so it's just always going. But actually, I think it looks pretty good to have it always on. Again, it's all about adding a bit of feel and ambiance and all that. So here we go, here's your conveyor belts. I actually use the train track pieces. I think they work out quite nicely, and what I'm trying to do here is create a sort of a safety rail, so that if you do get stuck on the conveyor belt and you keep going, eventually you're gonna ride up against that rail and get stuck and not fall off the edge of the conveyor belt. I look at putting some signs there, but they're all pretty big, so in the end I don't. And also the length it is now actually gets extended. Somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody on the Bro Nation group suggested it carry on to the edge of the area, and it would end up being a little bit more secure and a bit more safety, a little bit more safe. So here we are covering up the poor lady who works there. She's not going to have the best time of it now. She's going to get stuck behind a bit of screening and stuff, and then we copy that all the way around. There's a little cut there. I don't know why. Sorry about that, but it's basically just repeating this area here until we get to the edge of the studio, which is going to be where the ride really begins. So this first bit really is just getting us out of the station. So it swings around and goes past a few screens that say things like dispatch and ship ready to launch or whatever. I forget what I made it say now. These are really useful. These are the new colorable panels. Now, I actually had the idea for this when I wasn't at the computer, and I actually asked on Discord if somebody could check for me, but as soon as I saw them, I wondered if they worked the same as the star panels do, in the fact that they absorb light, basically, and they do, which is really useful. So if you get the lit ones and set them to be black, completely black, they basically soak up all the light, so you can shine lights at them. They don't show anything, and they won't show lights through them either. And it's the best thing we have to really help with these dark rides. So here's the plan with this then, because we kind of, because of just how the ride works and the queue and everything else, we're obviously not able to fit this ride into our studio that we've got built at the moment. And I don't really want to build the studios much bigger, because I think we're going to hit a scaling issue. So instead, what I'm going to do is have a second studio that this ride mostly takes place in. So this first studio does the queue, the station and the shop, and then there's going to be a second studio lot at the back where the actual ride takes place. And once we're actually into the ride, it's going to loop on itself quite a bit it, you know, it's going to be quite close in. Oh, look how good that looks dark. You'll see some glamour shots in a minute. You'll see some really close up, you know, it'll zoom around itself a lot and we can get quite a bit more into the space. But the one thing I really wanted to do, you'll see some fairy lights there. I tried to do it with fairy lights, it just wasn't working, so I've actually gone back and done it with billboards. One thing I really wanted to do is have this, have the ride come out of this, the launch area, come into space and hit light speed, basically, to explain how we're getting to planet 4546b. Now, if we could do it, it would be really great to make the speed variable on this ride. Unfortunately, we can't do that, so you don't quite get the sort of whooshing motion that I'd like, but we are able to replicate it a little bit using billboards. So like I said, I tried to do it in game with some lights and stuff, just really couldn't get it how I was happy with. And even now with the billboards, because they don't all tile, so it looks a little bit funky, but I actually think it works out quite well. So we found some royalty-free stock image of stars and royalty-free stock image of like swooshing lights or whatever they are that kind of represents, here we go, you'll see me trying it out there. Again, there's some shots at the end where you get to see it properly, but here you go, you come into here, it turns stars, and unfortunately I'm just having to line it all up timing wise. It's a very laborious process. It's very satisfying when it works out well, but it doesn't really make for a very interesting video, unfortunately, just trying to figure out how all this stuff lines up. So what we'll do actually is this area here, and also the area back into the station as well, which will pretty much just be the same as that, but back again. We'll actually make that into like a tunnel between the two studios. Okay, next thing then, we're taking a break from Subnautica and moving on to some other stuff. Bro Nation Discord is an absolutely fantastic resource for ideas and inspiration. There's some really great stuff shared there as well. And there's a really nice group as well who really offer advice when you ask for it. And there's a guy in there called Rian, I'm not 100% sure how it's pronounced, I'm afraid, who is doing some crazy good stuff in the game, really amazing. I don't believe he has YouTube, unfortunately, but you may well know him because he did some stuff in RollerCoaster. He was the guy who did the really crazy amount of detail when it came to things like the wires coming off the back of the popcorn stands and things like that. If you remember way back when, one of the early RollerCoasters, kind of the RollerCoaster that put them on the map, to be honest with you, the episode that really put them out there as doing what they do now so well. And anyway, he shared a little sort of studios build that he's doing, and it's absolutely stunning. And one of the things I really took away from it was that I was a little bit lazy with my sound stages, so I've gone back here and had another go at them and added a bit more detail. And this is very much based on the one that he shared, but it's really, really good stuff. So I'm just going back and adding some more detail and making it look a little bit nicer, and I think it turns out really well, and it was well worth the sort of hassle to have another go at it. The reason I kind of didn't really worry about him too much in the first place was I thought to myself, well, you know, it's just a box that we're going to put the ride in. The ride's going to be the central point. The ride's going to be the bit that people care about. But actually, you're probably going to spend more time looking at the sound stages from the exterior as we build in this park than we are from the interior. Once the ride's built, we'll do a POV and probably never go back there, really. So it was kind of made me think that we really should be going back and having another go at this properly. And also, I shouldn't rush. I do sometimes rush thinking, oh, I've got to get an episode out, but I think you, from what I can tell from the comments anyway, you lot would rather see less go on in an episode, but it be a better quality than just us getting stuff done, you know. Maybe a mix of both is probably preferential overall. I feel this episode we actually do get quite a bit done, although it's kind of all over the place and little bits and bobs, and again, I've got more to say about that when we get towards the end of the episode. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. Really glad I went back and did it and had another go, and sort of just remembered that, you know, there's a reason why people watch me, and it's probably because that I do take my time and go a little bit too much into detail, and sometimes I forget that and try and rush through and get stuff done. And I will never name names, but there are a few other series out there, not very popular series, but there are a few people out there who kind of throw stuff together just to churn videos out, and I don't really think it's the way to do it. I think it's worth spending time and really getting something that you can be quite proud of and look back and be happy with. So huge thank you to Rianne for kind of making me realised that probably, without even him knowing, although I have mentioned it to him there, that it was, for me, it was well worth him sharing his stuff there for me to go back. So we get this lovely now curved roof. I think it looks loads better. It's really well worth doing. And but if you're watching this and thinking it looks amazing, don't give me all the credit, because it pretty much is just a rip-off of the one that he did, including this, which I think is awesome, which is basically a fire escape or a set of ladders at least to get up to the roof to work on the aircon, or probably even maybe to bring some larger props in. I'm not too sure why they would do it, but I saw his version and thought it looked great, so researched a little bit and found that a lot of them do have this. There's also the most amazing thing he's done, where he's taken a screenshot of the wall pattern there, this sort of panel wall that you can see, chucked it into Photoshop, added clouds to it, and then put it back into the game as a billboard, so it looks like they've painted a cloud scene on one side of the wall to use as a backdrop or something. But oh god, it's absolutely stunning. If you're not a member of Bro Nation Discord, you need to be. I have my own Discord, and we have a great group of people over there who share some awesome stuff, but most of those are in Bro Nation as well, so I really would recommend joining it. It really is good. And of course, join Geekism as well, because we're small but perfectly formed. So here we go, building up these using steps. I think Rian's version actually just does like a smooth tiered thing, but I thought because it's a path, it probably would, safety wise, they'd rather have steps. But again, I just think these little extra bits of detail are really what make a build, and I have to be reminded of that sometimes a little bit when I sometimes get to a point where I'm like, oh god, when my YouTuber head comes on me and I think, oh god, I'm gonna get something out, it's it's Saturday and I need a video for tomorrow or whatever. Moving on again, this is a bit of a moving around episode today. Now we're moving on to a completely different project. To be honest with you, the amount of time that the billboards on the Subnautica ride took me kind of made me feel done with that ride for a little bit today. So I thought, rather than do nothing, a change is as good as a rest. So I moved over to another ride, which is going to be a sort of very traditional studios backlot tour using the tram ride. It's going to be themed around the movies ride. And I say themed about the movies ride, it's actually going to be a mix of a lot of things. It's going to be a few huge set pieces that we can use some of the awesome new animatronics. So thinking like a Jaws type thing, where the shark comes up out of the water. Maybe like a typical sort of stunt. Not necessarily stunts, but like special effects blowout thing, like the old tornado ride, or I think Earthquake was one of them, where the subway smashes up, that kind of thing. And then also we want lots of set pieces and references to the game, the movies. So if you don't already know, the movies is a classic simulation game, a little bit ahead of its time in my opinion, made by Lionhead, a fantastic studio that no longer is with us. Really great. You build a whole movie set and you look after your actors and things like that, and you can also build the films themselves as well, and sort of set out the scenes and all the props and everything. So really, really good fun. We're having an absolute blast in it. Pretty tricky, a little bit micromanagey, to be honest with you. I'd love to see a modern remake of it. I think somebody could do a really great job of it. But it was really good fun. And so I wanted to base a ride in here. So as well as some of the big set pieces, like I say, like a Jaws scene and things like that, we're also going to have scenes from films that we've created in the movies, and also some of the sort of classic films that you get in the movies as well, like some of the obvious scripted ones like The Baggage Boy and things like that. Again, if you're not a fan of the game, the movies, a lot of this won't mean anything to you, but just know that we're basically building a backlot studio tour. It's going to be mostly open. We'll have a few sound stages where we go in for some interior sets, like some of the sci-fi sets. There's a sci-fi corridor set that we've used quite a bit in the movies game, so we'll probably try and replicate that. But yeah, overall, it's going to be a lot of outside stuff, a lot of larger sets, and then also just kind of like random stuff as well. And I thought this would be a good place to use some of the other DLC that we had in the past, the little movie tie-in DLCs with the cars. So we actually use, I think originally I placed down a DeLorean, but decided against that in the end. I kind of feel like the DeLorean's probably too big a deal just to have sitting around on a backlot studio tour, so we'll probably bring that out to the front of house and have it as a photo point at some point. So instead I replace it with one of the Munsters ones, I think, and it looks pretty good. So here we're building the cinema. I was originally going to have people enter the cinema as the queue for the ride, but I wanted to kind of keep it open. I wanted the queue to be open with some grassy areas where there's just random props lying around, and a few of the studio tours I've seen have done this now, where they have some old animatronics or old bits of scenery and stuff, and they're just sort of lying around with plaques, and you have a look at them, and that's something I've very much wanted to do rather than do an interior queue. So this ends up just being a set piece really that people queue around the back of, and again I feel like that kind of fits with it being a backlot. Eventually what we'll do is we'll tie the back of the cinema in a little bit with it as well, and do like a fake back there with some trash cans and stuff like that, but at the moment we just kind of get the front done. The design of this is based on the cinema that features in the movies. It's a very fleeting appearance, but when the game loads up, there's a shot of a cinema, and so I'm using that as a reference point here for the cinema we're building. We have obviously I have done a cinema already in the game in Pinewood Hills. You'll have seen me drag it in before just to kind of give myself a bit of a reference point to start off with, but this one here is a little bit more grandiose, has a little bit more it's a bit larger and has a bit more lighting and theming and things like that. The one in Pinewood was obviously definitely a budget style, whereas here there's a bit more money going into it. There's a bit more lights, a bit more pizzazz and things like that. Here I realise that all that I've just built isn't in the middle, so easiest thing to do is copy and paste it and then fix it. There we go. And then we can add a little bit of a box here. I didn't really want this sort of box behind it, but you kind of have to just to cover up all the random bits that I've used, so it works out not too bad. Again, need to go back and finish the back of this building. There's a little cut there where I put this path in. Again, I could get rid of the path now technically because we're not having people enter the building, but originally this path was there so that people could walk up it, and it genuinely took me about 45 minutes to get that path to do that. Ugh man, paths in this game, what are you going to do? Technically, like I say, I could get rid of it now because they're not actually going to be used for anything. But who knows, I might stick a shop up there or something just to get people to walk up it, since I've took all that effort to put them up there in the first place. So again, capping off the front here, then we use some of the awesome doors. I love these doors. I really wish we had these doors as a separate piece. Instead we have them as wall pieces, so you have to be a little bit funky with how you use them, but if you get a little bit creative with it, covering it up and things like that, you find that actually you can use them as singular doors, although we actually do go back and add a second one in as well. But you know, there's stuff you can do, there's ways you can work it, just have a little play. Always, if a lot of people ask me for advice in this game, if nothing else, just try using a piece for something it's not meant to. Try and break the game, try and grab something, you know, look at a piece of a temple guardian's hand, you know, grab one of those statue hands and turn it upside down and put it into the ground and see what it looks like. You know, that's one thing I'd suggest if you really want to start getting to the next level of this game, so to speak. Not that I'm at any sort of next level, but you know, people often say, how do you really start building this sort of stuff? Move away from the themes that the game offers you, and try your best to just kind of, you know, create stuff that the game isn't meant to create, you know, and you'll find that you end up with something really fun. So we're adding a bit of a rope fence into this ride. I think I cut it because it takes me an age to do, and it literally is just sort of carrying in this one piece of pole here. What I would give for like a velvet rope fence, which I'm not sure we're going to get now, because if there was going to be a pack that we got a velvet rope, it would have been the Studios pack, and we didn't. So instead we're using this sort of standard rope and a traffic pole coloured gold. There we go, there's the cut. So all I've done there is thrown a queue around and then thrown that fence around it. And then here we're sort of picking out our areas for a few props. And one of the fun things about this was you can be as random as you like here, because it's genuinely just crap they find in the backlot that they can throw down and stick a plaque in front of it and say this was the actual pair of glasses that so-and-so wore in this movie or whatever. I remember going to a Harry Potter museum exhibit in Liverpool. It was like a touring Harry Potter museum. It was like a magic one actually. It wasn't just Harry Potter, it was about magic in general. They had a Harry Potter section, and they had a copy of a Wii game, a Harry Potter Wii game, genuinely in a case, and the plaque said Harry Potter video game, and it wasn't one that Daniel Radcliffe had played or anything. It was literally just a copy of the game. So yeah, this is the sort of thing they do. They grab whatever they can. And then here I use this awesome new little sign piece that we've got that's actually meant to be like a hanging sign on a wall, but if you chuck it into the ground and do a bit of funky work with art shapes, and you have to actually make these images upside down to get them to work. I think it works out quite nicely. Right, some glamour shots. First of all, the station for Subnautica. Feels like an age ago that we did this, but it was this week. And it gives you a bit of an idea. I'm not going to do a POV of this until it's finished. Instead, you're just going to have to stick with glamour shots, but it gives you a bit of an idea of what the place is starting to look like. The only thing I haven't done is left space for the ride to go through. I haven't done like a trough because, you know, ain't nobody got time for that. So here you go, here's the space there. We're going to have some sound effects there and a voiceover saying light speed in 3, 2, 1, that kind of thing. Here's our lovely cinema. Again, still needs a bit of work this. The reason it isn't finished is because where you saw me get up to before, I actually went downstairs to cook some tea and I chopped my finger open on a can. So I had to go and get a couple of stitches, and I'm struggling a little bit to type and to use my my left hand. So I'm going to try and still do videos this week, but I might struggle a bit. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how we get on. And there you go. There's a map. I'm fine, by the way. Literally just 2 little stitches, but you know, we'll see how we do. There's those new studio lots. Really well worth going back and doing those. I think they look a million times better, and I've actually got them over in the back there as well, plain, ready to reuse later in the park. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, you can give us a like. It really does help out the channel, and if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe. Any thoughts, queries or suggestions, you can pop them down in the comments. If you fancy a chat, you can find me on Twitter, and if you'd like to join in with the Geekism community, like I say, you can do so on our Geekism Discord server. You'll find the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.